Hi there, I'm out here in front of Claquato Church in Claquato, Washington. This happens to be the oldest standing building left in Washington State, even older than our own state capital.
This site was donated by Lewis Hawkins Davis in the 1850s. Claquato is the ancient Salish word for high prairie.
Today we're going to do a little exploring by land and air. Thanks for joining me, and enjoy. The Claquato Church, under the provisions of the National Historic Preservation Act of October 15, 1966, this property possesses the exceptional value in commemorating and illustrating American history. Placed in the National Register of April 24, 1973 by the National Park Service and the U.S. Department of Interior, Washington State Parks and Recreation. I'm not exactly sure if that means this is part of the state or national park. I'll double check that before I fly here. I want to make sure that I always follow local, state, and federal rules with drone flying.
The Claquato Church was built in 1857 by the community using wood that was donated and milled locally. The pews, pulpit, and all the interior were handcrafted. The nails for the church were hand-smithed by local blacksmiths and donated to the project. Apart from being a church, it also served as a schoolhouse. The unique louvered belfry houses a brass bell forged in Boston, Massachusetts that sailed all the way around Cape Horn of South America until it reached here at the church. Its striking spiked steeple is designed to emulate the crown of thorns that Christ is said to have worn during the crucifixion. Today, the church serves as a monument, and it also has its very own Oregon Trail marker, as this was a very important site for early settlers following the Oregon Trail at that time. Today it's used for community events and can be rented out by private parties for weddings and various other special occasions.
And this is the historic Claquato Cemetery. It's far from forgotten, however. It's still in use today, and people from this area are still buried here. However, this being one of the oldest pioneer towns in Washington State, it has a tremendous amount of history. You can almost feel it walking through these old gravestones and markers and feel the history that's been here, and can only imagine the lives that people lived here over 150 years ago.
Mr. Davis also donated these lands for the cemetery. Included also is an infant cemetery called Baby Rose Garden.
Behind these doors lies hundreds of years of history. And whosoever liveth and believeth in me shall never die. And regardless of whether you are religious or not, as long as you continue to believe and remember those that came before you and the history that was laid out before you, to get to where you are today, those people never die. Behind me are the ruins of some old homesteads. I'm not exactly sure which they are because the old maps don't coincide very well with the newer maps. It's private property, so I'm not going to be tromping around back there. And there's a more modern house right across the street from me that this property might belong to. So I drove about a quarter mile down the road, and I'm still pretty sure that behind me in that field is private property. And those old-looking homesteads that we were just looking at are just slightly up the hill behind me. So once again, I'm going to be using the incredible power of drones to try to explore those without upsetting anyone and trespassing on private property.
I'm quite curious about what this building may have been. It looks a bit too large to be somebody's personal residence. Perhaps it was a hotel, or maybe the town hall. Maybe it had something to do with the mill. It's post-Victorian style. Looks like it came probably from the early 20th century. Those strange round white objects to the right of the screen look very curious. You can only imagine the stories and lives that unfolded here. Happy ones, sad ones, but each one an important part of our history. Someone somewhere knows. Somewhere is the key to this story, waiting to be found. This little outbuilding here seems to lack much of an interior structure, likely a storage barn, or perhaps even a stable for horses. Or maybe just a large woodshed for the several fireplaces in that building. This old place here is a complete wreck. It's hard to tell which objects were part of it and which may have been dumped, but I believe I see a refrigerator still standing inside. I wonder if there's any food in it. In the 1870s, the railroad bypassed Claquato, and most of the town moved 3 miles east to Chehalis, Washington, leaving what was once the largest settlement between the Columbia River and Olympia, Washington, to fade to memory.
Thank you so much for joining me. If you like what you see and like what I do, please show me some love, give me the thumbs up. Make sure you leave a comment and any suggestions you might have. If you want me to explore and look at anything here in the area, please let me know. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel, and of course, have yourself an awesome day, and we'll see you all soon.